In this podcast episode, hosts Bialik and Jonathan Cohen engage with Dr. Raymond A. Moody Jr., the pioneering physician and philosopher who coined the term near-death experience, NDE. The conversation touches on the rich history of afterlife inquiry, beginning with ancient Greek philosophy, modern-day scientific and philosophical approaches to near-death and shared death experiences, as well as the challenges in proving the afterlife. The dialogue also explores Dr. Moody's innovative experiments aimed at bridging the gap between ancient spiritual practices and contemporary psychological research, while addressing cultural and scientific skepticism surrounding these phenomena. The episode opens with intimate accounts of experiences related to the afterlife. Listeners hear of the moment when a loved one dies, including the bending and expanding of space perceived by one host as his mother passed, accompanied by hearing her voice without mouth movement. Another related story involves a sister sensing the presence of their deceased father during the mother's passing. These personal anecdotes reflect a commonly reported phenomenon of sensing and feeling a connection to those who have died, which many people worldwide can relate to. The hosts note how such experiences are not outliers, but part of a larger pattern of afterlife encounters reported across cultures and time. Dr. Moody's background as a philosophy scholar deeply influenced his work. His interest was sparked by reading Plato, whose dialogues describe encounters beyond death and the soul's journey. According to Moody, the foundations of Western rational thought and inquiry into the afterlife originate in ancient Greek philosophy, with oracles of the dead playing a fundamental societal role. These subterranean chambers were places where people underwent experiences that involved meeting deceased relatives. Such early philosophical and spiritual frameworks predate and inform today's scientific investigations of near-death phenomena. Moody outlines how the advent of cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, in the mid-20th century significantly increased survival after clinical death, subsequently providing a richer database of NDE reports. He emphasizes common elements across near-death experiences such as life reviews, a sense of timelessness, heightened perception, including 360-degree vision, encounters with a bright, loving light, and feelings of unity and love. These experiences tend to remove the fear of dying and foster an enhanced appreciation for life, love, and connection. Moody stresses the transformational nature of these events, both psychologically and spiritually. Despite the compelling narratives, Moody laments the difficulty of proving the afterlife using current scientific methodologies. He critiques those who claim near-death experiences are merely brain chemistry effects or hallucinations, labeling them as ill-informed about the philosophical meaning of skepticism. Moody explains that true skepticism is the suspension of conclusions, and that asserting a purely materialistic explanation without engaging with the depth of the evidence is intellectually lazy. He further argues that the scientific method as currently employed is inadequate to address questions about consciousness beyond death, and a fundamentally new logic or conceptual framework is necessary. Moody reveals that he has developed a novel philosophical logic that moves beyond the classical limitations outlined by thinkers like David Hume. This new reasoning acknowledges the unintelligibility of certain aspects of the afterlife experience, but treats that unintelligibility as a legitimate phenomenon to be understood rather than dismissed. His recent manuscript, Swan Song, explicates this approach and challenges readers to engage with it critically. The logic is not presupposed on belief in the afterlife, but offers a toolset that could transform rational inquiry and bring a scientific-like rigor to a traditionally elusive subject. Drawing on his philosophical interest in oracles of the dead, Moody recounts his unique experiment designed to replicate aspects of these ancient practices in a contemporary setting. The Psychoantium involves a darkened, comfortable room where participants gaze into a mirror reflecting infinite blackness, eliminating their own reflection. Preceded by emotional preparation involving thoughts about the deceased and unresolved issues, the experiment aims to induce experiences akin to those from the subterranean oracle chambers. Contrary to Moody's expectations of limited or ambiguous results, many participants reported vivid encounters with deceased individuals, sometimes unexpected ones. This modern scientific homage to classical spirituality underscores the cross-temporal continuity of afterlife phenomena. One of the remarkable findings Moody shares is that opening a portal, whether in the Psychoantium or at moments of death, does not guarantee that the person expected to appear will do so. Rather, other spirits or entities may manifest, highlighting the unpredictability of crossing between planes. This unpredictability introduces caution when engaging with these liminal moments. The conversation explores how portals or openings between worlds function more like points in a communal or energetic dance rather than conscious acts by the dying individual alone. The metaphor of a school bus whose route is guided on the other side is offered to conceptualize the process of transition. The episode delves into shared death experiences, SDEs, phenomena where bystanders or loved ones near a dying person report vivid perceptions akin to those of the dying individual. These may include seeing spirits, hearing music, or sensing light and presence. Notably, many report the rising of a white or pink mist or the sound of a choir as the soul departs the body. Hosts and Moody discuss how the veil between the living and the dead is thinning in modern times, partly due to increased survival from near-death events. These communal experiences extend the scope of afterlife encounters beyond the individual to the social field. Moody critiques the dominance of scientism, the ideological elevation of empirical science as the exclusive arbiter of knowledge, as limiting discussions about consciousness and afterlife. He underlines that fundamental questions about life after death transcend current scientific paradigms, and that an interdisciplinary approach that includes philosophy, phenomenology, and spirituality is essential. The podcast emphasizes that the integration of science and spirituality could enrich understanding and reduce stigma around reporting unusual experiences. This broader cultural acceptance is already evident as more people openly share their stories. The hosts consider reports of people developing heightened or psychic abilities after returning from near-death states, suggesting that these changes might reflect aspects of the expanded consciousness experienced beyond physical death. These transformations seem to challenge materialist views of the brain and open inquiry into the nature of human potential. Moody cautions against premature explanations, advocating instead for open-minded observation and rigorous thinking about the phenomena encountered. Another fascinating topic discussed is parallel or shared dreaming, where two or more individuals simultaneously experience the same or complementary dreams, often with precognitive or hyperreal qualities. Moody describes accounts where couples dream the same tragic event from vastly different perspectives, enhancing the mystery of time, reality, and consciousness. These experiences suggest layers of interconnectedness and the possibility that consciousness transcends individual physical boundaries. The conversation extends to how openness to such phenomena may depend on a person's mental and energetic state, shaped by spiritual practices or life conditions. The episode touches on family constellation therapy as a modality that reveals and heals unconscious family patterns by invoking ancestral connections. This therapeutic approach demonstrates how beliefs and energies from past generations influence present health and emotional states. The hosts link this work to the theme of the thin veil, noting that accessing ancestral support can facilitate profound shifts in well-being. The therapy involves acknowledging inherited burdens and consciously releasing or transforming them, reinforcing the podcast's broader dialogue about the interplay of physical, psychological, and spiritual dimensions. Moody reflects on his journey from philosophy to medicine and psychiatry, driven by curiosity about consciousness and mortality. He hopes his legacy will be as the thinker who embraced the unintelligibility of afterlife experiences as intellectually meaningful and who paved the way for novel logical frameworks to investigate them scientifically. Despite resistance from traditional psychical researchers and skeptics, Moody is optimistic that breakthroughs lie ahead, requiring shift from passive narrative consumption toward active conceptual engagement. The episode closes with encouragement for listeners to explore these ideas with open yet critical minds.